Social capital emphasizes the importance of relationships, highlighting the benefit of social networks as valuable assets. It allows groups to collaborate effectively towards shared goals and objectives. Join us as we'll explore how social capital empowers young entrepreneurs to successfully operate social groups through interpersonal connections, a shared sense of identity, common norms and values, trust, cooperation, and reciprocity. Welcome to the Skills Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Benga Lawal, author of This Space, Your Place. Dive in with us into Power Mind Results as we'll explore talent, skill set, and experience. If you're ready for a giant leap into success accomplishments, this is the space. This is your place. Get ready and let's get started. In a business context, social capital can enhance a company's success by fostering shared values and mutual respect. Discussing this topic with me today is someone who is so special. He's our guest on our podcast on this episode, Marlon. Marlon is a highly experienced leader in the creative and professional industries, specializing in business development, partnerships, and product sales. He is passionate about the future of sustainability and inclusion, particularly in addressing current and potential challenges. Currently, he leads his own organization in the property sector, focusing on real estate investment and property management. Marlon, you're welcome to the Skills Mindset Podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, Marlon, we've been talking behind this show, and we've been having some chat around what you are passionate about and what you are all about in terms of your business and how you really are willing to help others, particularly people who are young and look like you, to foster in their business projection. And of course, you really concerned as to the challenges that are faced with particularly young black entrepreneurs in terms of the issues they have affecting the way they are handling their businesses, and of course the direction of their businesses, not necessarily because of internal factors but some external factors. And what I mean by that are things that are beyond their control, even with all the effort they are putting into it to make sure that they can do something for their community and for themselves. So Marlon, this and many more are things you are, interested to discuss tonight. And I'm sure that you will be willing to really unleash your wealth of experience, your intellect, and of course your expertise in discussing this topic so that somebody else will borrow from, or learn from your experience, and of course be able to, put things right and be pointed to the right direction. So we know that we're talking about social capital, and I know that you are so much into this. You've been doing a lot of businesses around this. You are a young individual gaining valuable experience in the world of business and product sales. So can you just tell us, Marlon, your journey as a young black entrepreneur? What inspired you to start your business in the first instance?
That's a very good question, Gabenga, and thank you so much for the warm welcome. I loved the introduction, so much kind words being spoken about myself. So with my journey, it hasn't been something that I would say is plain sailing, but it's something that I've just managed to sort of pick up and learn as I went on. So for me, my entrepreneur journey started whilst I was at university. So in my final year, I decided I wanted to start my own business. Of course, this was very daunting because I'm a university student. I don't know too much about business, but I did go to a business school. So you could say I had those fundamentals already instilled in me, and, maybe that's what sparked my desire.
Yeah.
But for me personally, what made me want to start my own business is to have more control over my own time and also to be able to hopefully give back to my own community. And like what I'm doing right now is I'm sharing my own experiences, some knowledge, and some expertise. So this is one of the main drivers for me when it comes to starting my own business, is what can I do to help the next entrepreneur that wants to hopefully, that will one day start their own business. What can they look out for? What is it that they really want for themselves? I guess for myself, it was just a case of I wanted to be my own boss. So my parents and sort of like my family know this a lot about me in terms of who I am. Is I like being in control of what I'm doing. So for me, starting my own business was a great way for me to get that feeling that, I get to be my own boss. But that comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of challenges. And I've just had to learn as I went on. And then, of course, it's come to a point where I feel like I'm established enough to say, guess what? Now I can start building on some of the fundamentals and the things that I've learned along that journey.
Yeah.
But it started from a very young age. So again, I was at university, my final year. I was about 20, 21 at the time.
Wow.
Didn't know a lot about the industry. That I wanted to get involved in, but I did a lot of research. And that's how I got started and decided just take the leap. Just do what you need to do.
Oh.
And that's how it started for me. And then since then, I haven't kind of looked back.
Wow, that's very impressive. And I mean, were you coached into thinking that way, or were you? What was the spur of the moment that you thought, as a young guy, you would really want to pursue your own business? Business skills, and then of course that journey. What would you say was the burning issue? What was the thing that really, and you may have been inspired by a lot of different things and listening to business coaches and all that, but you went to business school, but not everybody that will have attended business school will have wanted to pursue their career in business anyway. So, but yours is a bit of a difference, and that's why we caught your work got attention, and people want to know what you do and how you do it. Can you share your journey as a young black entrepreneur? What motivated you to start that business? What was the spur of the moment for you? What triggered the whole thing that you just said, this is what you want to do? Apart from the passion to help others. I mean, you needed to be there to be able to help people, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's quite a number of factors. I think the first one is probably I have to give credit to my parents. So watching them when I was really young. So my mother owned her own business. She had her own hair and beauty salon. And as a kid, I would always go down to the salon after school, and I'll see how dedicated and hardworking she was in trying to build something of her own. She had her own employees, she had her own premises. It was a really, really good and functioning business. But not only that, I saw the joy that it was giving her at the time, and I felt so as a kid, just being in that hair salon, watching her work away. That was definitely a spark in terms of figuring out what is it that I can also start for my own and be very passionate about and be very proud of. This is something of my own.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is something I could potentially pass down to future generations.
Yeah.
Now, that was at the time I was really young. So that business, again, is a traditional business. Things have changed a lot in terms of the landscapes and what actually works back then might not necessarily work in today's world. But I took a lot of lessons from it in terms of learning how to speak to people, building on your clientele, having a lot of integrity, and for me, just seeing my mom like run her own business and have that instilled in me at a young age was definitely a defining moment for myself. But then outside of that, my parents were also entrepreneurial in some aspects because they owned a few properties themselves that they were renting out, and it was providing them as a source of revenue, a source of income for themselves. So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit around me, and I feel like it's been within me. And don't get me wrong, I feel everybody has this entrepreneurial spirit.
Really?
It's not just something that I totally believe that.
Oh, that's good.
Everybody has an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
But it's literally sometimes it gets closed off or it gets suppressed because of maybe the school system or how we were brought up, and we were quite risk averse. But for me, I feel everyone has that entrepreneurial spirit, and if you find a good reason to start what you want to start, you'll be in it for the long haul.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's
somebody once told me that everybody's a salesperson. We all sell something.
All At
least we sell our ideas.
We have to sell. Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Well, that's really interesting story you have just shared about your where you got. And now I know where you got that from. Now I know where you got the spirit, the energy, and of course a bit of the experience from now. So are you the only one in the family above? I mean, you must have your siblings, or are you the only one into business or into this kind of business? I mean, and I know that not everybody in the family want to do the same thing. Some people deliberately would just want to do something different, just to make it add flavor to the discussion on the table, or on the when you are discussing. You don't all want to be talking about property. Somebody want to be talking about something else, isn't it? Or is the case in the family that everybody talks about business, property, and other stuff? Yeah.
I would say I'm the most business-minded person in my family.
Okay.
So I have 2 older sisters, and they're not as interested in building a business or talking about wealth, investments, as much as I am. I'm definitely more passionate about this topic because I feel like our community lacks the knowledge. We lack sort of the basics in terms of what can we do to put ourselves in a better position, not just for ourselves, but for our future generations. So the more conversations that we have around topics like this, and you mentioned social capital. So that there was 2 things you highlighted, trust and reciprocity. The foundations of that start from your own inner circle, so your family. And if there's any place that you want to start in terms of business or opening up those conversations, it starts with your family. Then you can build that around you within your community. Because as people are seeing what you're doing, it's also inspiring other people to take action. So I love the term and some of the things you've mentioned around social capital, because it's needed within our community. So but to go back to your question, I'm probably the most entrepreneurial, business-minded person amongst my immediate family. There could be others that I don't know about, so I don't want to say too much. But I'm not claiming to be the best business person in my whole entire family, but I'm just saying for my own immediate, I would say it's myself that pushes and advocates and actually does the work. So I don't just talk about it. I actually do the work. So, any business I'm talking about is stuff that I've literally done in the past or I'm currently doing. So yeah.
Well, that's a brilliant one. Now, let me just ask you. I know you let's just talk about the importance of social capital or what that has done. Now, I don't know how much of the support you need from your parents or from your family. I don't know how much of interactions, business discussion and nuggets they will have given to you, apart from the fact that you study and you saw things they were doing, or they are doing, and then you just wanted to foster into that and all that. Because I know that social capital in itself can simply, help in terms of bringing in advantages of gaining, a lot from social interactions. Okay, and then and relationship matters when it comes to business. How much of this support? How much of this, in terms of, or let me put it this way, what role has social capital played in your entrepreneurial journey so far?
That's a very good question. I think social capital has actually helped me in terms of building those networks and those relationships. It's helped me a lot in terms of who would I be able to consult with, who would I be able to do business with, who would I be able to see, okay, is this something that we want to build something together? So for me, the transactional side of business is always going to be there. But if you want to build trust and long-term relationships that would enable you to really have something that would last quite a very long time. So I'm talking about 10, 15 years plus. So that longevity that you want to see. This is where social capital plays a big role. So I never undermine any kind of relationships or interactions that I have with people that are either supporting me on my journey or people that are just admirers. So they're thinking, oh, how do I do this? Or maybe they want to get some advice, or they want to ask me questions. So I'm not a closed book. I'm always happy to have interactions with people if they're learning or if they just want to find out more about a particular area of business or get into a certain get into a certain space. So whether that's friends, whether that's family members that ask us questions because they've heard about something that we've been doing or something that we're currently doing, I'm happy to share knowledge on that, because it's all about the transfer of knowledge. This can go into this can start from investing. It can start from just learning about contracts, you name it. So anything I feel that relates to business, but also understanding how can we foster those relationships. It's always going to be a very big important role in your daily work and in life. Actually, social capital, you need it for everything. So we're all individual. Is more than just a transaction.
Of course,
you need to start building rapport, building trust, so people can actually feel like they're benefiting from doing business with you. Because it's besides the just a transaction, besides the maybe the money side of things, there's more that comes into play.
Of course,
so
it's true.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Wow. Thank you, Marlon. Thank you for that. Now, you mentioned something very crucial that I just want to touch on. I know that's a dimension to understanding, or that's the way of understanding what business is about. For me, the other words for business that you can use for business includes transaction, interactions, and relationship. When you're talking in those concepts, you're talking about business really, because that's what business is all about. And like you said, whatever transaction or interactions or relationship we want to build, you build that not only around the money that is being gained, but in terms of the value that is being shared, okay, and that is being distributed, which is very key to ensure. And that's why I thought that when people are having challenges in social capital, it's all because they couldn't have defined, rightly what business is all about. And then they are missing out on what benefit they can gain from social capital. If I'm wrong, just correct me there. Because from what you're saying, I can tell that if you know how to manage that properly, it's part of your resources that you need to manage, you need to use on your journey. And then of course you can then see how much of that you want to gain, because the more of it you understand to navigate, the better it is for your business. Now, what specific challenges therefore that have you ever encountered in building such networks and then increasing your social capital?
Very, very good question.
Yeah.
And I have to relate this to a particular project
Yeah.
that I was doing now 3 years ago. So that's when I acquired my first ever property investment.
Yeah.
So that's the first one in my portfolio. And at the time, I invested in an area that was very much far from where I currently live. So I'm London based, but I had a investment property up north. Obviously, travel distance very far. When I first actually purchased the property, I never viewed it. I also didn't know much about the area, but I did my own research.
Yeah.
So make sure you do due diligence before you look at any sort of investment proposal or opportunity. But there was a time where I traveled down to, so the areas we're talking about is in Middlesbrough. So I traveled down to Middlesbrough. I knew nobody in that area. I had no networks, nothing, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that I feel that really helped. So there was a place where I was staying.
Yeah.
And the lady was running her own serviced accommodation business.
Mm.
And luckily for me, she was also a Nigerian lady. So we built that rapport instantly. And she knew I was down here for business. I told her I'm looking at an investment property. You know, I've literally bought it and everything.
Yeah.
So she was a lady that was happily going to introduce me to other contractors and people that I could actually liaise with and figure out how am I going to actually get my own property up to speed. So at the time it needed a full refurbishment. She didn't help me find a builder, but she did put me in touch with plumbers, electricians, you know, people decorators, handymen. So these people become very valuable to your business because realizing in property, you need to be able to leverage other people's time and other people's resources. So I knew that what she was doing for me was very beneficial in terms of she's extending her network to me. So it's not always about who you know, but the person that you're referring to, it's about who they know and potentially what that trickles down to. So I never felt worried about investing outside of my area because I knew that I could actually build relationships and get introduced to other other contractors and people that can help me on my journey. Until today, there's people that I've met through property in terms of my own entrepreneurial journey that I'm still in contact with till today. So it goes to show that really and truly you need social capital. You need to build relationships and work with people because at the end of the day, it's a people business.
Yes, definitely.
You have to know exactly how to interact and establish those relationships as much as we possibly can. Even though sometimes it might feel a bit transactional, but if there's areas where you know you can strengthen and build on your relationship with somebody, by all means do it. Like I attended my builder's wedding, so that just shows you how far you know in terms of it becomes more than it doesn't become about just the business side of things. Now you can actually become a part of somebody's family and become a part of their life, so on and so forth. That's when you're really building something. You're building a business. Because you're fostering those. You're making sure you're building those ties and those relationships.
That's very true. You said a lot there. Thank you so much. Particularly when you were faced with the challenges of not knowing what to do when you get to, your location where your first, investment property or business is being. So I mean, good enough. You were able to connect and you were able to, foster on that connections and then of course get something done. That's the beauty of it. That's what we're talking about. And I also shared your view clearly when you talk about people in your team, because as a business owner or as an entrepreneur, you need what we call power team, particularly when you are into property investment. You need power team. We call it power team in the world of property investment, isn't it? where you have your
Yes.
builder, you have your solicitor, you have your broker,
Yeah.
you have your accountant, you know, you have
Yeah.
all these people that you will have to engage in getting things done. You got to
Yes. Yeah.
develop them, you got to have relationship with them, you got to also have to
Yeah.
network with them. And
Yeah.
deeper, much more is when you get to investment property or you are into property. Somebody once told me then in years back that if you want to build your power team in property, make sure all of them are also property investors. So they are
Right.
not just going to be solicitor, they're not just going to be accountant, they're not just going to be broker. They must be broker who also investor in property. And I think that makes a bit of difference because you see, if you go to an accountant, and permit me if I'm wrong, if you're an accountant there, they just look at your figures. They really don't know what you really want to achieve with those figures, but they will deal with the figures for you. But if you go to, accountant who is also an investor in property, I think he will look at it differently.
Yes.
It,
Absolutely.
they
I
will
totally
they will
agree
look
with
at
you
it
there.
differently,
Yeah.
and then they will tell you that, oh no, we can present it this way, we can do it this way, just to ensure, not necessarily just to make sure that you can be efficient in your whatever you are doing. And that's exactly what it is for social capital. That's what it means, you know. Now, you've said a lot of beautiful things about social capital and getting into that. There are challenges around it as well, you know that, and I know we've shared
Yeah.
some discussion around this. And just in a quick nutshell, how do you believe systemic discrimination affects your access, your particular access to social capital, beyond your own network that you created or formed for yourself? You really wanted to,
Yeah.
get some funds from somewhere, for instance, or you want
Right.
to access some information or materials or resources from somewhere, and then you are faced
Yeah.
with some systemic discrimination. How does that affect you, in as a young black entrepreneur? How does that affect you in your progression in business world?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a good feeling for any entrepreneur that wants to start their own business or they have their own business and they're seeking more funding. So yesterday I was doing a bit of research and I found that black entrepreneurs and founders are only accessing 1% of the total amount of venture capital funding. For me, this statistic is very, very disappointing. Because if you think of all the black-owned businesses that we have in the UK,
Yeah.
it's already not up to the levels that you would want it to be at. But the reasons why is not where it needs to be is because of this lack of funding, and we're seeing from the statistics that anybody can research online. It's negatively impacting our community. If we don't have resources to start our own businesses, how can we create wealth? How can we be able to help our own people?
Or create
How are we going to
employment.
be able to? How are we going to be able to even give back to the current system and current society and actually add value? It's very difficult. I'm speaking from a place probably a bit of privilege because it's a privately owned business. So when it comes to funding, I can seek funding via different means. So maybe I don't necessarily need to go to venture capital firms and ask for funding. It all depends on the nature of the business. But what I feel is within our own black community, we have less access to resources that will actually enable us to do exactly what we need to do. Whatever the kind of business that you're involved in, I feel the lack of capital that we have either available to ourselves or what we can actually go to others, to, let's say, whether that's either a bank or venture capital firm.
Yeah.
We are widely discriminated against. I wouldn't say maybe because of our race. It's most definitely because of our race. We already know that statistic that I showed you. We're disproportionately
But is that not
affected
because people
by
don't
venture capital.
assess it? They are not aware of it, or they are not just assessing it. I mean,
That is, yeah,
what do you think
yes,
would
that
have
can be one
attributed
factor.
to that?
Yeah. For me, is a very deep topic, and I don't
Yes,
want to go under too
definitely,
much
you are
of
right. Very sensitive as well.
a rabbit hole. But the way we're conditioned and the way we view perhaps money and also business is it seemed as a lot more risky, and it's something that maybe we shouldn't be striving towards, because we can always have something that's a bit more secure, a bit more steady, which is fair enough. But I feel that this type of thinking has been imposed on us by Western society. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have their own views. I will have my own view. I'm sure Gabenga, you will have your own view. But at the end of the day, it's giving people that choice. And if they want to start their own business, they should have access to funding, no matter their gender, their race, or their background. But unfortunately, we're experiencing this in the UK. VC funds are not funding black entrepreneurs or founders. It's a known fact. Only 1% of funding is being allocated. But I will give some sort of a noticeable shout out to Barclays, because they have the Black Accelerator Fund in partnership with Foundervine. So they are doing something to curb this alarming statistic. But again, not much is being done. And I can only think from my own experience when I wanted to start my own business. Did I necessarily have the funds myself? No, I did not. What did I have to go and do? I had to go and use networks and leverage other people's resources to get to where I want to be. Now, not everybody knows exactly what to do or where to start when you're thinking about these things. But if I'm a young black entrepreneur, what resources or tools do I have available to me if I already know that it's going to be harder for me to get venture capital. It's going to be harder for me to raise any sort of finance to start my business. So what's happening? There's less black-owned businesses. Unfortunately, that's what's going to happen, because we're systemically cut off from the resources that we need. The UK Black Business Show is also is going to be running this month.
Okay.
Where it's Black History Month this month.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
We need to start seeing more things happening around this space, and not just, it shouldn't be centered around Black History Month. UK Black Business shows should be happening every quarter. We shouldn't be having this only during Black History Month, but it's good to see there's stuff. This is actually happening. I may have the opportunity to actually attend the UK Black Business Show, and I'm hoping to speak to some entrepreneurs and founders, and even purchase some products from them.
But
again, we need to be celebrating more of our culture, more of what black people are actually contributing to society when it comes to business. But we don't see enough of it. So guess what happens? None of our family, none of our children are going to be wanting to pursue businesses, because it's not being shown to us as this is a viable option. But we know that it's the system is against us. So what else do you expect? You know? So it's not easy at all. It's not going to be easy if you're a black entrepreneur, or if you're a black founder, business owner. You will have a lot of obstacles and challenges along the way.
Yeah.
Regardless of where you are.
Yes, I know.
Regardless of where you are.
I know a lot. Some are fortunate, and just it's all about how they can make use of what they have. Some are really fortunate, and some are really disadvantaged. In terms of access. But I think you've said it all, and given your experience and what you went through in terms of dealing with that effect, the issue as and how that affected or impacted on your business, pursuit. I think is something one needs to keep talking about. It's something we need to keep
Definitely.
sharing among the community, that our community particularly, and of course foster some kind of support that can help young people, because once you are discouraged in progressing, it's a lot of challenges in there, because you then turn to something you really wouldn't want to do, and then
Yeah.
get stuck in a place you don't really want to be, and then of
Exactly.
course,
Yeah.
and that's how you now go through life through that direction. So it's a lot of situation around there, and it's a sensitive discussion as well, because people are bitter, some people are fortunate, and it's a mixed feeling as well. But I think more often than not, and by and large, we need to take responsibility regardless, and just keep doing what we can do. But let's come together, like you have said. When people come together, I think it's more helpful, it's more supportive to when you come together to have a common front. And I think
Yeah.
it's only by that you can break some barriers, and you can speak
100%.
against some systemic systemic discriminative
Yeah.
apparatus that has been instituted, and then of course make sure you can progress, but step by step. All right. Now, apart from that, could you link this with what we have just discussed, or could you discuss that separately in terms of dealing with regulatory barriers? And this is general. It's a regulation. It's open to all. It's not. I don't think. Yes. When you have regulations, you got to go through it. You got to be regulated. So, how have you dealt with any regulatory barriers that have limited your access or your resources?
Yeah. With regulations, so the industry obviously I'm involved in is property,
Hmm?
and there are many barriers
Hmm.
and things that they will put up against, whether that's landlords or investors. So of course we had the Section 21, so no fault evictions. You can't just tell your tenant they have to leave without giving an actual reason for that. That left a lot of landlords in a tight spot. We've also recently been given EPC mandates, so from your property it needs to be energy efficient and have achieved a certain rating. If not, you won't be allowed to even rent out your property, so meaning that you basically don't have an investment because you're not getting a return if you keep your properties empty. So the government won't even allow you to rent it if you fall below any kind of rating. I think currently it's a C rating. So a lot of things are being introduced constantly within this space. So it's being able to navigate this and staying informed and in tune with the market. So for me, how that's impacting currently my investments is I'm not always looking for properties that give me the best returns, but now I'm looking at properties that will have less. I'll have less of an issue when it comes to EPCs, when it comes
When it
to
comes to
obviously
regulations.
section. Yeah, Section 21 will always be there, so I guess it doesn't really impact that too much. But let's say, for example, you have a house of multiple dwellings, so HMOs, you might have more interaction or you might have more problems with tenants, for example. So now that's another thing that you need to keep in mind. But for me personally, regulation is something that will always be there, and you just have to react to what's currently going on within that space that you're operating in. So whether that means you having to change up your strategy because maybe, for example, the government decided to increase capital gains tax and you invest for capital gains because you want to hold on to the asset, wait for the value to appreciate, and then you might want to recycle the money out of the property. But because the government has decided to increase capital gains tax, you say, do you know what? Actually, I've decided I'm not going to be investing on that business model anymore. I'm going to go strictly for cash flow. So now I'm going to start investing and looking into serviced accommodation properties, because they tend to do really well. So regulation can definitely shift your strategy and your ways of thinking of how can I utilize and maximize the value of this investment that I'm going to go into. Yeah. So I've definitely had to think about these things as the property market changes and as regulations get introduced. Yeah. But of course, in anybody's particular industry that they're gonna be operating in, they need to be aware of regulation. If not, how are they going to successfully operate? Because these things can come back to bite. And if you don't, you only know what you don't know.
It's true.
Or you only know what you know, but you should be fearing what you don't know. So, and again, this is where regulation comes into play. You have to be up to date. You have to know what's going on in the market.
But again, if you, how do you explain this too? I thank you so much for what you have just discussed around around regulation, particularly relating to property management, investment and management. But generally, how does regulatory barriers impact on your ability to access resources? You know what I mean? Say, for instance, some criteria, eligibility, and some conditions and terms you've got to also satisfy before you can lay hands or have access to resources. Right. How has that impacted you? Although you've mentioned the challenges in terms of funding and all that, but good enough. You are fortunate about having families who can come together and support, but some don't, and then and they really want to go into the conventional financial system to have access to funds, or some groups where they wanted to benefit from and gain access. How that impacted on your own journey?
Yeah, I think I can only talk from personal experience. So everybody might come into the game with a different level of knowledge, a different level of resources. So I think you mentioned it rightly. So earlier I did say that I was able to start my own business with family members. So again, I had that support, I had that backing. But if you are by yourself and you don't really know where to start, of course there's a lot of regulation and there will be a lot of challenges against you. For example, if you want to get a loan from a bank, let's say you want to get a mortgage, there are certain criteria that you need to fulfill. That comes down to affordability. That also comes down to basically the person. So as a bank, you're looking at the risk level of a particular person that you want to give a mortgage to. And if you don't fall within that profile, it's literally a tick box. Yes, no. And if it's no, you don't get a mortgage. You don't get funding.
No, it's no.
How can you? How can you even scale your project? How can you even get involved in your project? So what I've tended to do is I went down a route of something called bridging finance. So you're not going to a traditional bank. You're going to a private lender. So a private lender would lend money to you at a higher interest rate. So it can be deemed more risky. But what they're able to do on a regulatory standpoint is they don't look at you as the individual. They look at the quality of the investment proposal. So they would look at what you're actually looking to purchase, and they will say, how much will this building, this property generate? And based off of that, they'll be able to lend you a particular or certain amount of money. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should go down this route, because we're all at different stages. Our ability to raise funds can be completely different. But this is one of the routes I had to go down, because I wouldn't be able to go down a traditional route to secure a mortgage, because you need to fulfill certain lending criterias. which at my age at the time, definitely wouldn't have been able to tick all those boxes. So I had to go through bridging finance, private lending.
But that's an
availability
of something you can fall back on or you can assess anyway.
Yes. Exactly.
At least that's an opportunity there, because I know that bridging finance as well has got its own criteria. So you still have to meet some standard. You do have to meet standard. You still have to meet some standard as well. But it's good that you're able to assess it and you're able to use it as an alternative method or approach to progressing your business, which is fantastic. And I know you're sharing that with people as well, because some people thought that once they go to the high street lenders and they couldn't get it, and so that's a stopper. It's not. There are so many ways. You can be so creative, particularly if you are looking for funds. Not necessarily because of property, but generally for your business and for your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
There are lots of opportunities and you can be so creative in raising funds as well. It could be very tough or hard work, but I think it's possible. That's what we are talking about, isn't it?
Most definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Now, quickly, because of our time, what would you therefore say to this? The kind of support or role does the Black community play in your business endeavors? Because, I mean, that's another big group of people we are talking about, and we are expecting something from that community, from that society. What role, collectively is being played in helping people to foster their business endeavors?
I think the Black community, in general, we have to come together and be more supportive of each other. Because if we can't purchase or support one another, who else will? I mean, we can expect other people to do that, most definitely. But you do feel a sense of community. You feel a sense of belonging when it's your own people of your own kind actually wanting to support you and wanting to get involved with whatever it is that you're doing. And I'm big on inspiration. So if I look at other Black leaders and business owners, I'm hoping to emulate some of their success, even though I might not get to perhaps their heights, maybe like a Oprah Winfrey or who's a very or like a Tyler Perry, a Spike Lee. But if I just look at what they have done for themselves, and how they've been able to elevate other members of their community. So that could be within their own circle or even just outside of their own circle. How can I kind of replicate that in my own smaller world, in my own ecosystem? So it's not just about us building something for ourselves, but what can we do to give back to others? I think that's when business suddenly becomes, it changes in terms of, okay, I'm supporting myself, but now how can I support communities? I.e. the Black community, so ourselves. Being a Black entrepreneur or and a founder of a company, that's what it could also come down to. So your roles and your responsibilities is wider, it's more broad. It's not just about making the most amount of money and whatnot, but you're serving communities. And sometimes this could also be members outside of your community, because you need to serve everybody. We're a whole race, we're a whole society. So this is what we're aiming to achieve. But if we just speak on our community in general, we need more social cohesion.
Definitely.
We need more people coming together, mobilizing. And this honestly, it only happens with the right kind of leadership as well. Because I feel like if we don't have that, then people don't have anything to inspire them. They don't have anything to draw to and say, oh, look, maybe I can do it. We only look at the celebrities or the rapper or people that we see on TV. That's doing a lot of the influencing. But why can't you be your own influencer in your community by starting your own business? You can be your own influencer if you actually start your own. Because people would be like, oh, wait, my friend is just like me. he has his own business. So what's stopping me? What's my excuse?
Yeah.
There is none.
Yeah.
So now you're influencing other people to go on that journey with you, and that's really something that
that's a good one you just mentioned there. Because I was going to ask you what kind of advice can you give to other young black entrepreneurs or young people generally facing similar challenges that you're like yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So do you have any advice for other young people, who facing challenges in their business journey as well?
It's a very kind of I wouldn't say it's a difficult question, but when I always sometimes get asked for advice with business, I usually just tend to say, do what you feel. What makes sense to you, you should follow that. But if there is any kind of nugget or piece of information that I would give to a young black entrepreneur, would simply be to have fun and to do what you love. Because I think if you're doing what you love, the rest should take care of itself. And when it does get difficult, because we mentioned this a few times, there's going to be challenges. We live in it's a social, we're talking about social capital. Relationships can become strained. That could be business or personal. How do you navigate those things in the business world, in the working world? You're going to have to, and it's something that you can't avoid. So what I would say, the only kind of advice that I would give, other than of course having fun, would be just to take everything in your strides. That you will come across negativity, you will come across hardships, but you should take it within your strides. And if you are enjoying what you're doing, so I go back to the having fun element, if you are enjoying it, then these things will be easier to overcome. Remember, challenges don't get easier. They usually get harder, but your skill level increases to the level that it doesn't feel hard anymore. So that's where we're actually sort of building people's skill set. You're building your characteristics. The more you're doing business, the more you're investing, you're building your character, you're building your skills. So suddenly everything becomes easier and you're enjoying it. If you're enjoying something, it's not a challenge to you. It can't be a challenge because you're having fun.
Wow. Thank you.
So I think that's my only. I'll say that's the piece of nugget or the advice that I was.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Now, to our institutions, community, what changes do you think are necessary at that level, of institution and community to enhance access to social capital? Do you think the institutions we have could be government institution or private, whatever, public and private? What do you think, or even our community, what do you think we can do to make a change? Or what changes do you think are necessary so that those changes can equally enhance access to social capital?
So I've got obviously young nieces and nephews, and they're obviously going through the similar kind of path or the school system that we currently have. How is that really set up, and how is that designed for young, school, not just school children, because obviously school children are there they're there to learn the basics and the fundamentals. But what is the larger institutions? So when we talk about colleges, universities, how much of the curriculum is actually is really being taught at a certain level that someone can go and implement it and start their own business or their own enterprise? There's not that many, and I feel like even though I went to business school, there was only one module that I studied on entrepreneurship, and even that was pretty useless. I couldn't do much with that information, so I had to go and experience it myself. They say the best experience is the best teacher. Is experience. So that was the only way I was able to get that, to get the knowledge and whatever I needed to propel myself. But for me, the change has to start from young kids from an early age. What are they teaching in schools? How are they introducing certain concepts?
Yeah.
Apparently, at the moment, they're doing stuff around, is it money management or financial literacy? They're starting to teach that in schools at a young age. So it's good to see that's happening within certain institutions.
Yeah.
And within our community, I don't feel like there's much being spoken about or said on how can we teach members of our society about leveraging their own resources and their own capital to actually start their own business or invest. We don't have enough of these conversations at all.
Well, there could be some.
If not,
there could be some kind of regular, networking workshops.
There could be.
Training and
There could be.
awareness. I don't know. I think there should be some at the level of community I'm talking about now.
I think there is, because correct me if I'm wrong, you actually host a lot of webinars, workshops on these kind of topics. So it's all about helping members of our community to learn and understand what does it take.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, more of it will be. I would very much welcome these kind of opportunities to be in the community and to be teaching others and actually sharing knowledge. Because if we do that, that's where we get to see progress. Because if we rely on governments, if we rely on some of these private institutions, the banks ain't going to teach us certain things. We need to go out and get them. We need to know how to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
The more we know, the more we can actually elevate our community.
Exactly.
The less we know, the more that they can manipulate us into certain things. So I think this is where it starts. It definitely starts with being in a community that actually cares and that actually fosters what are we going to do about helping up and lifting each other up.
Yeah.
Because we don't have enough of it.
Yes.
Unfortunately. No one else can do it for us. So we have to go and start it and build this ourselves.
Lovely.
And I guess this is where the skills mindset and all the great stuff you're doing, Gabenga, it comes into play.
We're doing what we can do. We can do much more, actually. And I want to appreciate you on that as well for coming in to share your experiences. I mean, supporting what we are doing, giving back to the community, and sharing information, expertise, and nuggets to help people out there. I mean, we won't know how many people will be listening to this, but I know that there'll be a lot of people, not necessarily young people, any business owners or entrepreneurs will benefit immensely from your discussion tonight and what we stand to achieve and the values we care to share. I believe that will go a long way to helping some people to take the next step. Perhaps motivate them, encourage them, spur them into action and getting results. That's all. We thank you for saying that, and then I think we are committed to doing that. How will you envision the future of young entrepreneurs moving forward? What kind of projection are you thinking about? Are you scared? Are you worried? Are you concerned? Or what kind of smile would the future bring to your face?
Wow, when I get asked these questions about what would the future look like, or what would you tell yourself 10 years on, for what advice would you give yourself, a younger version of you 10 years from now? To be honest with you, when I usually get asked this question, I do start thinking of, it's hard for me to answer because we cannot predict the future. But what I can say is that what we can do as young black entrepreneurs is we can actually come together, speak to one another, So if you know there's somebody within your community that has a business,
Yeah.
if they've asked you, if they've said to you, "Oh, I have this business, can you support me by, for example, could you maybe purchase one of my goods, one of my services?" So there's someone I know who has his own businesses customizing, or he actually has his own. So I'm into football, so he says he does football jerseys customized, and he can get me retros. So I'm a Manchester United fan. So our interaction was very simple. He just told me he knew that I supported Manchester United. He said, "Oh, I actually have my own business," and he said, "Can you support it? Can you support?" I said, "Absolutely. I'm gonna buy your United jersey." And then what else did I do after that? I posted it on social media so other people can see. I purchased from another black business person and another black owner and entrepreneur. So I think the future is collaboration. If we don't have collaboration, it's gonna stunt growth. We need to be supporting each other from the get-go. And it starts through having conversations. Don't be scared to tell people about your business. Because I feel like when you do that, you put yourself in a box. If nobody knows about what you're doing, how can you actually sell anything or your services or yourself?
Wow.
Even for me as an introvert, I can actually say I'm an introvert, but I do business. And in business, you have to self-promote. You have to keep self-promoting.
You got to come out of your
you have to come out
your hiding space.
Exactly. And I learned that. So I had to put myself out there, even though I didn't feel like I really wanted to, or feel like I didn't need to. So the future for us and black entrepreneurs is be proud of who you are, be proud of your business, be able to share that with people, and let other people support you on your journey. That's for me. That's really key. That's the main thing.
Thank you so much. Wow, thank you, Marlon. You've said a lot of few things, and I can just put them in a short summary or try to, recap on what you've mentioned. You've touched on the beauty and the benefit of social capital, how, the core of it is the concept that emphasizes on relationship, which of course relationship matters, highlighting social networks as significant assets, and much more. You now mentioned towards the end bringing social and collaborating, vices with others which is both important and valuable into our journey in this business or in business world. And then, of course, you touch on some factors affecting or limiting the access of, social capital for young entrepreneurs. You talked about experience. You talk about access to challenges and limitation in terms of finance. You mentioned regulatory barriers, and then discuss about the discrimination and social norm. Which of course we know is very sensitive and needs continuous discussion. And lastly, you were talking about networking and mentorship, because I was going to ask you actually, though you talked about collaboration is what is happening. It's forever there, but I think emphasis is now on collaboration. I was going to mention or ask you a question around mentorship. That how important is mentorship in your entrepreneurial journey? Have you got, for you, how will you look at the importance of mentorship? You have mentioned your parents, but some people don't have such parents who are entrepreneurial, but again, they are keen to get into that space. What will you say to them? Maybe a last question on this episode. What will you say to those people discussing and mentioning the importance of mentorship in assessing, social capital?
Mentorship is probably one of the things that it can be easily sort of disregarded, but I still think is one of the most important components in business and just personal development. So nobody knows everything. You need to actually go to a trusted source of information or experience, because nobody started off knowing everything or becoming the person they are today without actually speaking to somebody and getting the right kind of advice. So mentorship can come in different forms. You mentioned sort of like your parents and your family members, but also having a trusted person that has been through or is going through what you are doing as well, and you can confide in them. So I did have a property mentor. Now, once I learned the ropes and once I was comfortable in doing business on my own, I don't necessarily always interact with my mentor, but at the same time, I had to seek out a mentor. So any entrepreneur, any business owner, seek out mentors, people that you can actually speak to and get information or get advice on. Because if you don't, you might end up making a horrible mistake that will negatively impact your business. So whether that could be a property deal, whether that could be just learning about a particular industry. So we talked about regulation earlier. This all comes with knowing where to get your information, knowing who to speak, knowing what to do in certain critical moments is where mentorship is very important. And I definitely had that. So I would say seek out a mentor. It doesn't have to be somebody also from your own race, from your own background. It could be anybody that's willing and open to helping you and sharing and looking out for your best interests.
Lovely.
So I think that's what I have to say on mentorship.
Wow.
In general.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Actually, you're right. And you know, your mentor is not somebody you talk to every day. Actually, it's somebody you talk to when you needed to talk to. Because mentors don't really talk too much. It's only a coach that will be talking to you every day. Your coach wants to coach you on a regular basis. Your mentor will speak once and he wants to see actions, results, come back to you. And you need all those things so that you don't make some unnecessary, I call it unnecessary mistakes and costly, and which can be costly as well. So very, very, very good, very good. We all need, mentors in our lives to guide us through and say some things that you may not even understand it until when it happens.
Exactly.
Which is very true. I mean, we are talking about having a power team. Your power team is also that team is a mentoring team, is a class on its own, because they all have experience. They all deal with different things, but working together towards the same thing. So you'll be amazed at how much experience you're gonna gain from that. Thank you so much, Marlon. Thank you so much for today. I know you have said a lot, and we still have a lot to talk about. We will have to come back at some point to see what more you can share to help our people. But I don't know. We are wrapping up now. If you have any last words or final words so that we can close.
I'll just say to all the black young entrepreneurs and business owners that they should stay focused on what they want to achieve and on their own personal goals, and always be willing and able to work together and collaborate, because we want to progress as a society. So why not do this together with each other, rather than seeing each other as, oh, you have this going on, I have that going on. Where can we actually find common ground and get one another to benefit? Someone can benefit, you can benefit. We just need to see more collaboration. I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but let's continue on that kind of on that phase, and I think that's my final kind of words, and I'll leave it on that note.
Wow.
Thank you so much again for having me on the podcast, and look forward to coming back. And if there's anything else that people want to
lovely.
learn about myself,
I'm
or
loving
if they want
this.
to just reach out to me, I'm sure Gabenga will share some of the or have a summary of some notes, and
I tell you,
my socials will be available, so people can reach out to me. I'm happy for that.
Thank you so much, Marlon. Thank you for that kind words and the encouragement as well. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your experience. Thank you for what you've shared, your personal, stories as well, and your own unique way of dealing with all these challenges you have mentioned. So, guys, these factors that our guests have spoken or we have discussed on this podcast or on this episode can greatly impede your young entrepreneur's ability to build and leverage social capital, ultimately affecting their business success and growth. So to address all these challenges is what we have just discussed, and it is very essential that you will seek adequate knowledge, very important, and embark on a path of growth that focuses on fostering connections and establishing fruitful collaborations. So thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope you have found them inspiring and informative. If you have any questions, comments, or inquiries, please feel free to visit our website at www.skillsmindset.com. Leave us with a message and one of our team will reach out to you. Also, please subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss any of the episodes. I encourage you to embrace every moment with courage and optimism. Continue to pursue your dreams with relentless passion. Until next time, take care, chase your goals with knowledge, and stay focused. Bye for now.